In a show that's as cute as this, I never thought I would see a human centipede reference. I mean, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Sharknado, stuff like that, sure, but not human centipede, especially in a show as wholesome and adorable as this, but leave it to Tsukasa to throw us for a loop. This episode, I think, really highlights just how strong the character banter truly is and how wholesomely relatable it can actually be at times. If anything, I think one of the best compliments I can give this show is that it actually does have pretty good morals, all things considered. There's some ridiculous anime shenanigans and things like that, but the way the two are interacting as a couple, while it's definitely out of order, marriage and then kissing and, all the other things that come generally before marriage, unless you're like hardcore religious and can't do anything before marriage. At the end of the day, this show is actually really doing some nice things with their relationship and never making it creepy, never making it cringy. Honestly, just showcasing two people who truly love the other. And yeah, you're gonna laugh a lot at them, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have just yourself be a puddle of adorableness because the anime is gonna melt you that hard. One of the best things that I think this anime has done out of its 5 episodes, which is insane to think that we're almost halfway through this amazing series, but that just goes to show how quickly time has flown by watching a show like this. I love the idea of what their marriage actually represents, because at surface level, when you first start the series, it is completely ridiculous. Even ignoring how they reunited and things like that, just the idea that they could get married right then just because of a children's promise. The thing is since they have been married, you can really see this marriage lasting, in my honest opinion, and that goes to show that true love can be found, and that anime doesn't have to play by the completely absurd to make viewers interested, being like, oh, it has to be overly flashy with fan service and things like that for a relationship in anime to be interesting. No, you can have, honestly, just really nice, sappy, relatable moments, sometimes obviously completely ridiculous with the comedy, but when it's not focused on the comedic scenes, it is completely adorable and I think actually says some pretty nice things with its themes and messages. The best part is the idea of rings, the whole idea of an engagement ring and then the 2 wedding bands. Different people have different opinions on what that matters. In terms of, like, some people will say, oh, you don't need a wedding ring if you already have an engagement ring. Some people say, I want a wedding ring on top of the engagement ring. At the end of the day, everyone's wedding will be different and everyone's opinion on what marriage is, engagement is, and what a relationship is will be different per person. It's very interesting how someone like Nasa has been so bound and bent on making sure his wife is happy because he's new to this whole game and he views her as any other girl from what he can see from media to what other people are telling him, like Kaname, saying like, hey, she's saying honestly some pretty truthful things. All these things that she's saying that you don't have to do, it's actually the opposite that she wants done, which honestly isn't bad advice, but at the same time, that's not the right advice for his relationship because he has a different one. It's one honestly built out of true love through and through. What someone like Tsukasa does is done purely out of love and not because she feels like she has to do it in order to keep him around and things like that. So it's interesting how, because most relationships in the real world are honestly built because it's convenient, because people are just like, oh, I don't want to risk having to find someone else, I guess this is good enough. But I'm a firm believer you should find the person that completely matches your own behavior, even if it takes a while to get to said place. So it's interesting how you're watching 2 people who honestly are very compatible, and even though they have different preferences like the TV and him not watching TV, her being a TV enthusiast, at the end of the day, the way they care for one another is completely wholesome and they link up so flawlessly. And he's so bound and bent on getting these rings where she's looking at it as a waste of money. She's not someone who needs that object to make the marriage work. But she can also see, for him, he thinks that it's very important, and even though he's doing it for her, he wants that thing that he can look at on his hand and she can look at on her hand to remind that they are together, even if it isn't the most extravagant ring ever. And it's very interesting how they portrayed the whole ring dilemma, because engagement rings and diamonds and all that sort of stuff is always going to be expensive, and you can tell the difference of a lower cut gem versus a higher cut. It will be the clarity, the vibrance, and things like that. So it's interesting how you have really ridiculous shenanigans where they go to the best store ever and the prices are ridiculous. He's so committed he's willing to literally cut off an arm to buy her one of these amazing rings. And then she's like, no, this was just supposed to try to snap you out of this insanity. Let's go to a different shop. And it's real cheap. And he's kind of like blown away. But then he also has to get dragged away because even he can tell that there is a difference in the quality. And once you get to a certain quality that looks presentable, it's pretty damn expensive. And it's so interesting seeing the two and how it feels like, oh, This is what you would expect the show would have been at the beginning. People being like, oh, I guess we have to have rings and we have to have it look nice, blowing through the savings and things like that. And yeah, he has used a decent amount of money on her. The mattresses, you have the just stuff she needs around the house, you have the TV, but nothing comes close to the ring. And the fact that they settled on the cheapest pair of wedding bands, not the engagement ring, just the wedding bands, and she's so blown away by it because she can remember that day and what that day meant to her. It's showing you that true love isn't built around money and objects, it's built around the kindness and the actions of the other, which is exactly what marriage, engagement, girlfriend, boyfriend, partnership, that's what it is. And you gotta respect an anime that went that direction when it easily could have just been goofy the entire way through. And that's why I think this might have been my favorite episode personally, even though it was definitely funny. The thing that really sold me was the idea of wedding bands and engagement rings and how they really made it feel wholesomely relatable. In fact, when he first started looking at his hand and stuff like that when he was at his work, he was thinking oh, I really miss her, I know she misses me, and I thought what he was going to do was he was going to talk with her on her breaks. That's what I do with my fiance when she's on her breaks. I call her and she calls me, and that's how we keep in touch during when we aren't together, which we usually are for most of the day. So I thought that's where he was going, and then he goes right to the ring, and I was like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense, but at the same time, he wouldn't be as lonely if he would just talk with her on his breaks, because I guarantee you he gets lunch breaks, just general breaks throughout the day. There's no way they work 10 hours straight or anything like that. So it's kind of funny seeing just how, for him, he just wanted to be able to look at something when he has such technology that he can easily hear her voice, and he can use webcams and things like that to video chat his own phones. There's a lot of ways, but it's interesting how because he's so out of touch with what relationships are and he's doing things out of order, so he has to go straight to the ring, which I really like. The intro of the episode was definitely funny. I like how passionate she is about TV, and I can't say her priorities are wrong. I mean, I don't know how in today's day and age, everything built around the internet and technology, how you could survive without being bored without a TV or a computer or something like that. So I don't blame her for getting so passionate. It was really nice seeing all the number of movie references and things like that. So it definitely brought a giant grin on my face while making me laugh because he's so being oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And she gets more progressively I'm not trying to shove this down your throat, but that's kind of exactly what she's doing, talking about how it should be a part of an education system. Definitely had me rolling. The Kaname stuff was also pretty nice. It's nice seeing the other side characters or even the maids and how they watch them kiss and oh, should we report this to Shitose? Absolutely not. She'll probably burn the house down. And I like how they didn't even try to pursue them during when Jaws NATO or whatever they called the Sharknado spoof was, because they knew that if you interrupt her, we'll probably all be dead or something like that. You gotta love this show. It was probably one of the funnier episodes, but I think it was the most wholesome and I think had the best message overall. And I really like this about this show. This is a show that could have literally 2 people watching it, and I think I would commit to making reviews for it because it's just so great. It feels good. It doesn't feel drama-filled. When the drama's there's usually a comedy spin to it, and honestly, this show is just great. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What do you think of the message and the comedy of this episode, and what do you hope to see next week? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.